In this video, we're going to have a look at the transition process that people experience when they're going through change. And importantly, I'm going to present you with an update to a model that a lot of people refer to when they're dealing with change within a team that might really change how you actually manage things in the future. Ahoy, it's Peter from Bryter Training, where we aim to help your business grow by utilising positive disruption with bespoke organisational development, leadership and communications programs. Now remember, if you haven't already, take a quick moment just to hit like and subscribe. That really helps us out. Now, in his 1991 book, Managing Transitions, change consultant William Bridges describes change as something that happens to people even when they don't actually agree with it. Personally, I can think of aging as a perfect example there. That's something that's going to happen to us whether we're ready for it or not. But in his book, he stresses the importance of what he calls transition. And for him, transition is what is going on in someone's mind as they are going through a change process. So it's important to consider that change is situational. It's the new site, the new job, the new manager, the new policy or process, or the new coffee that they've started using at work to replace the one that you used to like. Whereas transition is the process that people go through in order to come to terms with or process those changes. So change is what happens, transition is how we respond. Change is what happens, transition is how we respond. So really what we should be looking for in business is not change management. We should be looking for transition management. And this is really critical to understand because in knowing this, we can understand the stages that people go through as they transition from one state to another in dealing with the changes that they're facing. So the transition through change is a simple three-step process. There's an ending, there's the neutral zone, and then there's the new beginning. So the transition begins with an ending. Like Elsa climbing the mountain, the phase begins with letting go. For example, if you have a new manager starting and taking over your team, the employees need to let go of an old way of doing things, old ways of working, old processes. So it's really that reality that things are now different. So next we enter the neutral zone. It's where we accept that the old way is gone. It's the space between the old and the new. So what we find in this part though, is it's where the change comes in, it's where the stress, the resilience really comes into play. We tend to be a lot more hypersensitive, both to new processes and changes, but also of other people's behaviors. And in this section, we tend to try on different things and see how we like it. So in the case of a new manager starting with a team, that's where you'll start to have a lot of meetings, one-on-ones and reviews as you start to discuss what the new ways of working are and what the new rules and processes need to be. And it's during this stage that you start to see all the elements from the various change models that are out there, such as the grief cycle, the change cycle, even Maslow's hierarchy of needs will come into it here as well. And finally, if all goes well, we enter the new beginning. So we understand the processes, we appreciate what's happening, and we're comfortable with all of the changes. So there is actually a curvilinear relationship between stress and performance. So there's too much stress, performance suffers. There's too little stress, we get bored. So just the right amount of stress does result in peak performance. This is really what they call the Goldilocks principle. Being self-aware of what causes stress for you though, and this will differ with each person, is really, really important in developing resilience. So let's have a look at the 4 most common stress triggers and how they affect you. So the first trigger is the loss of competence, where you start questioning, will your skills be enough? Will the new manager have the same values as you do? Will the quality and service that you provide to your customers still be maintained? Or will I have to take on even more work? The second trigger that can cause a lot of stress for people is the loss of connection. Relationships may suffer because of the changes, and it does take time to build new relationships. So the questions start to come up such as, will I be respected? Will I be given the time to build these relationships? What support network is in place for me while I deal with these changes? Now, the third thing that can trigger stress in people during change is a loss of choice, and that's concern over possible restrictions to their behaviours. Will I get a say in the process? Will career possibilities still exist? Am I still on the same trajectory with my life plan? Is my experience and my perspective actually valued? And the fourth trigger of stress within any change situation is a loss of control. We start to be concerned about the people who are managing the change. Do we have control over our own projects and our own job? Who are these people who are actually managing the change? What skills and experience do they have to manage my life? So a lot of stresses can really start building up around this one as well. So now we know how the individuals will transition through team and the different stress triggers. Let's have a look at a team of people experiencing change and have a look at what that process looks like. Now, a very common model that people refer to when dealing with change within a team is Tuckman's 5-stage theory of team development or group development. So it suggests that a new team or a team that's undergoing significant change will move through 5 different stages. So the first stage is forming. As the name suggests, this is where the team is starting to build up some new rules or starting to understand the situation. Normally people are positive and polite here. Some are a bit anxious because they haven't quite fully understood what the situation is or what it means to them. Other people are just simply excited and interested to see what will develop over time. So this stage can actually last for quite a long time according to the model. It's as people build those relationships, start to work together and just take the time to get to know one another. Now, according to this model, the next stage that the team will enter is called storming. And this happens when members of that team start to push against the boundaries that have been established during the forming stage. And storming often occurs within a team just because of different working styles and different priorities. So, of course, different people work in different ways. That's absolutely fine. But when those conflicts do arise, it can cause a lot of stress within the team. Storming can also happen in other situations, such as when team members start to challenge the authority of the leader, or when the team members themselves start to jockey for position within the team. Now, during change at work, if there hasn't been clarity around the expectations and how this new team will work together, then that can also lead to the team members feeling overwhelmed and once again add a lot of stress to them, and that adds to this storming stage that the group will go through. This can lead to a lot of people actually questioning the purpose or the goals and the direction that the team is going, and they may even start resisting doing a lot of those projects or taking on new work. And then those team members that are still focusing on getting the job done, it adds a lot of stress to them because they don't have the relationships or the support or the processes that they need to really feel comfortable and to move forward within this process. So gradually the team will move out of the storming phase and into what's called norming. It's where people have started to resolve their differences, they start to appreciate each other's strengths, and they have a lot more respect for their leader, and they're all just starting to get to know each other a lot better. People also start to develop a much stronger commitment to the team goal and the direction they're going, and you'll start to see a lot of progress and momentum toward that goal. But there is often on this model a prolonged overlap between storming and norming, because as new projects or new tasks come up, the team may find themselves slipping back into those storming stage behaviours. Finally, if all goes well, the team enters what's called the performing stage, and that's where the hard work leads without friction to the achievement of the team's goals. And this is really supported by the systems and the processes that have been set up. And as a leader can then start delegating a lot of the work to other team members so that they're then free to focus on developing newer members or less experienced members of the team. It also just feels really easy to be part of this team. I'm sure we've all worked in teams like that, and where small changes such as new people joining or people leaving doesn't really affect the overall productivity and the success of that team. And then on this particular model, there is a 5th stage called adjourning, and that will happen when if there's a significant change within an organisation and a team is disbanded, maybe it's a contract team and that contract has run its course. So when, of course, the contract is over or the team is ending, there's another stage people go through. It can be particularly stressful for people who like routine and are very comfortable where they are, and then you'll find that they go all the way back to stage 1 in these various change management cycles. So the assumption is that the process is somewhat linear and that teams move through each stage, and this is something that's often taught in leadership programs. However, more recent research into it indicates otherwise. So the US military ran an extensive study on team formation in a really large population over an extended period of time, and they were trying to better map out Tuckman's stages of his theory to see when and how teams move through these various stages. And interestingly, very, very few teams actually went through the same stages according to Tuckman's model. So many teams just skip stages entirely or even pass through stages in a different sequence. But almost universally, they found that it was difficult to say for sure that a team was squarely in a specific stage. Rather, the activities and the behaviour associated with a particular stage were more or less pronounced. It was hard to say any of the stages Tuckman identified were in fact stages at all. Storming, they concluded, is not a stage at all, but it's a consistent occurrence. So knowing all of that, what do we do to become a high-performing team? And how do we minimise the impact of that storming element? First thing we need to do is allocate less than 80% of people's time to a particular series of tasks. So in many companies, people report into functional units and their time is apportioned out to multiple projects in an effort to get as many things done as possible. So this often results in people's time being more than 100% allocated across multiple projects. So our ability to get work done diminishes almost exponentially once we're over 80% allocated. And for every project over one that we are assigned, we lose about 20% of our time to context switching. Next, we need clarity of role. The individuals need to understand the strategic value of their role to both the business and to the team. It's also essential that we make sure that all of the stakeholders and each member of the team really clearly understands the purpose and the limitations of each of the other roles within that same team. Next, to be a high-performing team, people of course need the skills and the knowledge to actually do their job. Invest in the training, make sure people know the processes, the policies, the systems, make sure they've got the necessary underlying skills or soft skills in order to succeed at their job, in order to make sure the team succeeds as well. Now, in a high-performing team, there also needs to be a real balance between direction and autonomy from the manager. So people need clarity and they like to have clear expectations set for them. And if you've got newer people or less experienced people within the team, then giving them a lot of autonomy is just working against them and the rest of the team as well. Finally, it's absolutely essential to have clear goals for everybody and have those goals clearly communicated to each member of the team so everyone knows what everyone else is working on. Make sure there's an effective feedback or communications system in place so that we can recognise other people's perspectives. Take the time to ensure that people are actually asked for their input and make sure that they feel like they are being heard and listened to. So I trust this has given you some food for thought and some ideas to consider when navigating change, either for yourself or within a team environment. Now, the topic of today's video is actually part of a much larger suite of programs that we run at Bryter Training, all to do with change management and the psychology of change. So if you would like some more information on those programs or any of the other programs that we do run, please reach out to us at any time. Our contact information is on our website and the details for that are below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching.